Hello and welcome to this reflective practice pop-up lecture, and this is all about you. I'm Kelly Brookes. In this session, we're going to reflect on your identity and construction of the world in relation to your studies. We're going to consider the benefits and your process of reflection. So when we embark on our reflective journey, we need to ask ourselves some open and reflexive questions. So let's start. We might want to ask, how have your past experiences impacted on your current practice? As part of your reflective journey, you need to think about what has gone well, what hasn't gone so well, and what have you learned? Following on from this, you might want to consider, how did you problem solve? What did you learn from overcoming these issues? And then, what is your professional praxis? So praxis would mean your way of doing, being and thinking. You might want to consider how well you deal with others and question whether you like to work alone or with others. Do you like to work and be quite active and proactive? Do you like to do a lot of research and reflect before you take action? Are you quite a visual learner? Do you have strong reading and writing skills? So it's really important to consider how you learn and what your learning style is. You might want to think about what you would change and now do differently. How are your approaches to your work, your process, changing? Have they changed and why? It's also helpful to get to know yourself and to consider your identity. In terms of considering your identity, you might want to think about how you define yourself. What is your construction of your identity? Do you consider and introduce yourself by nationality, age, gender status? For example, is it important to say I'm Chinese, I'm British, how old you are, what you do, what your occupation is? Is this what defines you? You might want to think about how your friends and family would describe you. Have you ever asked them? It's quite useful to get different perceptions of you. Then you might want to think about what you wanted to do as an occupation when you were younger. How does that compare to your career ambitions now? Why has it changed? You might want to think in terms of your discipline about what your strengths and your weaknesses are. This will help you when deciding on essay questions, report questions, and areas of study. You might also want to think about how your strengths can help you to overcome your weaknesses. And you might want to consider what your values and philosophy is in relation to your discipline. Following on from that, you might then want to consider what the antithesis to your philosophy and values are. It helps you to know what you are not, and that's just as important about thinking about what you are. Then you might want to consider why this qualification is so important to you. What's your motivation? We have extrinsic motivation, which is focused on getting that qualification, but there's also intrinsic motivation, which relates to proving something to yourself, and others. What is it within that drives you to get this qualification and to do this program of study? Okay, so we've dipped our toe in really, and we've considered, this process of reflection around your professional practice. Here are your references. This is the end of the reflective practice session. I'm Kelly Brookes. Thank you and goodbye.